Okay, so pre-market live Wednesday. We're gonna be talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just probing a structural lows is kind of important. It's had a pretty big sell-off from the highs, roughly almost 50% off the highs. And we're gonna be talking about obviously we do our meta indices, look at option open interest and everything like that. We'll look at SPYs, Qs, IWMs. There's something really important going on with IWMs this Friday, so we'll talk about that. And then we're going to look at some trades that I'm in right now in DocuSign, HD, Novavax, Space. Space had a big rip yesterday. And we're going to look at DDD, which had a really good run yesterday on a positive news catalyst. So a lot of potential trade ideas out there right now. Pretty good week so far. Our portfolio is doing pretty well this week. For some of you that are my students, you'll know that I'm not doing any more new live trades right now. So I'm taking a month off of live trading. Needed a little R&R and just need a little break, basically, And so I'm enjoying the time off. It's been very refreshing and catching up on some reading and some exercise and things like that. So it's been very, very exciting. But there's been some great moves, and luckily a lot of the moves have been in stocks that we already own. So some of our buy right strategies, buying the stocks and then selling the calls against that, have been doing very, very well right now. So we'll take a look at that. But let's start off. Let's look at meta indices. So we're going to SPYs, Qs, IWMs, the important thing happening this Friday in IWMs. We'll take a look at Bitcoin. What's going on with that? Is the Bitcoin run over? This is a pretty big drop in it, so we got to take a look at this. Hello to you, Chi Chem. So SPYs, not a whole lot. I'm not expecting a whole lot today. The key with SPYs right now is we're now in a positive gamma environment. So for those of you familiar with this, positive gamma means less volatility in the markets, means the market's not long options. So we've built up a fair amount of that right now in SPYs, and so I'm not expecting a huge move today. I think we're going to we'll probably press into the highs today, 426, 427. I think that's going to be all you're going to see in terms of upside. I think at that point it'll probably fade back a little bit. Qs is a little more interesting. It's been a volatile index lately. Tech has been getting a lot of boost lately. Part of that had to do with dealer positioning in the sense that dealers didn't have enough upside exposure. So when the market moved up, they actually had to buy Qs to help offset some of their exposure. So now it seems like that has kind of balanced itself out. And so I'm not expecting Qs to have much more upside for today. Maybe a couple points to the upside, 349, 350 max. But then also I expect that to fade a little bit back. I'm kind of hoping it does, because now that Qs has printed into all-time highs, as you can see here, I'm kind of hoping for a pullback into around 342 to potentially get long Qs. I think there'd be a good play on that one there. Let me put that up on there we go. So around 342.79, I'll look to potentially get some exposure on Qs. Needs a little bit of a pullback. Good morning to you, Eric. Good to see you. So the big one for me in terms of the meta indices is the Russell. What's going on with the Russell? I'm not going to we could talk about the price action later. It's had a pretty good run. We did say, hey, once it gets to this 233, 234, it's going to sell off and, it's going to pull back. And that's exactly what it did. It's like a 12, 13 point drop in it. It was a pretty big drop. So hopefully some of you were able to take profit on that and to short that one there. But the real news is the rebalancing. So for those of you familiar with rebalancing, the big name rebalancing news that we had recently was Tesla being included into the S&P 500. And when that happened, the announcement did is there are large hedge funds, index funds that have exposure to the S&P 500. When a new stock gets added into an index, then those funds that track that index have to buy or accumulate shares of that stock to track the index properly. IWM is having that this Friday. So it does it every June. And so it's this Friday for the rebalancing. And so a lot of the questions that have been on traders' minds is what small cap stocks are going to be added to the Russell? Now, roughly 16 trillion in funds track the Russell. That's a lot of funds. That is a lot of funds. And so if new stocks get included, those funds are going to have to start accumulating those shares. So sometimes, knowing or having an idea which shares are going to be included, which stocks are going to be included, can lead to some, pretty big moves. Just from the announcement. I wouldn't expect to have a 50% run like Tesla. That's very uncommon. Tesla did have a lot of hype around it and a lot of kind of anticipation around it to begin with. But, the IWM does have a fair amount of flows going into it. So, a lot of the questions are, is GME going to be added? Is AMC going to be added? Which of these stocks are going to be added? That's a very interesting question. So once the announcement comes out, there may be some trade opportunities, some medium long-term plays that, show some general appreciation just from them being included. I mean, if you think about it, if you have, a fund that has just a few billion, in just a few billion in a particular, a few billion in exposure IWM, if they were to add AMC or something like that, or GME, you can look at, and they were just to put, just a certain amount of percentage of their exposure into that stock, that could be tens of thousands of shares of that stock being bought all at once. And that's just a small fund. When you start looking at the larger funds, you're talking hundreds of thousands of shares. So some potentially interesting opportunities in small caps. And I think that could really create some good medium-term trade opportunities for the next quarter, because we're at the end of June. This is the end of this quarter. So, Q3 and Q4, you could see some pretty strong runs in that. The Tesla run, if I remember, it was at least a couple months. So, before it peaked. So we'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that announcement for right now. I don't have any speculation as to which stocks will be, but as soon as I start to hear things, I'll let y'all know, especially the members. So IWM's very interesting situation right now. Bitcoin, is it dead? Well, so far it's been rescued by the skin of its teeth, because this kind of support zone, which you can see here, which is the base of the structure here, and then you have one more level of support, with all these wicks to the downside here. And that is, to me, the real vulnerability. Let me get rid of some of these red lines here. So you have this weekly low from the sell-off, and then you have this and this here. And so if it loses, if we get a weekly close below 27.7, I think Bitcoin's going to start to retrace a lot. I think you're going to see 25K real quick, and then potentially 20. If you're a long-term hodler, this is not too big of a deal. Like if you're someone who's planning on holding for years and you believe in crypto as not just an asset class, but as a technology and potential architecture for all kinds of things, then, you really wouldn't think about it too much. You might even accumulate some at these prices. I personally would want to see Bitcoin stabilize. We did have a nice rejection off the lows, which is pretty solid. This is this rejection right here. And you saw some very strong buying off that. This is aggressive selling leading into this. Very aggressive selling. Impulsive, correct, impulsive, correct, impulsive, corrective, impulsive, counter, and impulsive. Hits VWAP, sells off. But when you look at, you can start to see these wicks at the downside. So there is some buying going into this. And then it has one 4-hour flash below 30K. And some dip buyers, likely some large players, said, we're going to buy that up. 30K is cheap. So, some of the whales, I'm sure they got involved in this. I'm sure there's some whale transactions on this here. So they bought it up, and now it's up 4.5, 5K. That's a good, strong response. Is it out of the woods yet? No. Has it shown a transition in the price section? No, not really at all. If you look at the 4-hour, let's maximize this. You can see we've just been in a large corrective structure between, 41 and 30. We've had a few probes, here. Consistent resistance between 40 and 41, 42K. But we've just been in this large corrective structure after a big sell-off. So the fact that it's a large corrective structure is constructive. If it was this kind of move, like if we had, let me move this over. Like if the sell-off into 30K was like this, and then the bounce was just like really small, then I would be saying the probabilities are this is going to, break to the downside. This there's not much of a bounce. There's not much buying interest coming in. You know, the buyers are coming in. They're just not generating enough force, and the sellers are just holding it right above the support. When that happens, generally, the next leg is usually more often down than up. But this is not what we're seeing here. We're seeing a large sell-off and a very large corrective structure. That means that there is, you know, kind of this wide range that we're seeing here. There is significant buying interest at 30K. So is that a transition in and of itself? Kind of yes, in the sense that it's no longer dominant selling. You know, this was pretty dominant selling for a while. It's a decent sized corrective structure, which means that there's two-way order flow. There's buyers coming in around 30K saying, hey, we think this is undervalued here, 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 and here. And then there's sellers who are saying, you've rallied enough. You're not getting past this. We're going to send it back down. So no transitions inside this corrective structure. Like, I'm not reading anything inside this corrective structure that would tell me one side is in control or the other. You got a balance basically going between here. You got a balance between buyers and sellers. Sellers up here, buyers down here, and they're fighting for control. We haven't seen any transition yet. This is a good bounce. It's going to need more time or more structure to say, hey, who's in control and who's not. So, you know, who's gaining control, who's losing control. So Bitcoin's not dead yet, but you get a weekly close below 27.8. You're going to see 25 and 20K real quick. And then I think you're going to get some serious value buyers at that point. But, you know, the interesting thing is that Bitcoin has had some big sell-offs before. Hasn't had a 50 center in a while. I mean, this is, you know, from 61K to 30K. That's a 50%. It hasn't had a 50 center in a while. The last time was way back here, back in the 2017 run. I don't see another 2017 style playbook where it ramps up and then just consolidates for like 3-4 years. I don't really see that. I don't see that. That was a parabolic run. This was partially parabolic, but it built a big structure at the top. So there's a lot of distribution going on here. Buyers selling to weak players, you know, retail traders chasing it, probably buying near the highs. So, you know, with that being said, it's not quite the same. You know, the other one was a parabolic run and then big exhaustion sell-off. This is not that. Plus, also, crypto has a lot more adoption technology-wise. So I think you're going to see people continue to buy at round numbers, 30K, 25K, 20K. And then at some point, you know, the sellers will no longer be in control. Do I see anything yet right now? No, as I mentioned, nothing in the structure yet. But I see a lot of long-term players who are long-term believers in crypto. And so you're going to see 30, 25, 20K, those kind of key levels for right now. So we'll see what's going on. We need a little bit more time, a little bit more structure to develop. But stay tuned for more analysis on that. Okay. So a couple others that I'd like to mention, some strong players. Justin saying, yeah, I could use some life in small caps. You got a lot of small cap exposure right now? Okay. Which one do I want to talk about? DDD, Space, Novavax, HD. Let's start with DocuSign. Very, very impressive run after some very strong positive news catalyst. Just a real brief, we'll visit it again. So, they had a new agreement. It was huge. And they also got ratings upgrades. You know, Wedbush. They basically had some really positive news catalysts. Then on top of it, they had ratings upgrades, raising price targets. So all this is very, very bullish. And it's had a pretty impressive run since. You know, very good earnings, very positive earnings. Earnings beat, nice weekly close, but then just weekly boom, boom, and boom. So it's been up 3 weeks since the earnings, and it just kept getting more and more positive news. I am long-term bullish on DocuSign. Full disclosure, I have a long position on DocuSign, not just the stock, but we also have options as well. With that being said, I kind of feel like DocuSign is going to be topping out and taking a little bit of a breather soon. When I look at options positioning, we actually have more calls than puts. We have about 126,000 calls and 165,000 puts. Do I think those puts are people who are buying puts? I don't think so. I don't think people are buying puts on this. I don't think it's people that have long stock positions and they're buying some protection. You wouldn't buy protection. If you were long stock, you wouldn't buy a lot of protection after such positive news catalyst and such price action. What I think is happening is that traders are actually selling cash secured puts. They're trying to collect the high premium in DocuSign right now. It's been volatile, IV's high, and they're trying to collect on that. And what they're doing is selling cash secured puts. So cash secured puts is basically you don't have any position, any stock position in DocuSign. What you do is, let's say you want to buy at 250. You're like, okay, I want to buy at 250. And right now it's 277. So one thing you can do is you can just put a normal limit order to buy stock at 250. If it fills, you get long at 250. If it doesn't, you don't. Another alternative is if you're really bullish on the stock and you do definitely want to buy at 250, you would sell a cash secured puts. You would sell the 250 puts, and by selling those puts, you would collect that premium. If DocuSign pulls back below 250 and it closes below 250 by the time your option expires, there's a good chance you're going to get assigned on that. And that means that you will be long at 250 regardless if it's at 245, 240, 230, doesn't matter. Why would you do this? Well, instead of just placing a limit order, you don't get paid to put a limit order on a stock. But if you sell a put, you get paid for that. You collect that premium. And so you collect that premium. You do have risk. You have exposure by that. Technically, your risk is, the stock could go to zero. So you do have exposure. But you're selling cash secured puts, and you feel like, hey, I want to be long at 250. I'll sell a put at 250, and if it closes below that and I get assigned, no problem, I'm long at 250, and I got paid for it. So when I look at that, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing right now. The fact that we got more puts than calls tells me that the market is most likely selling puts. So, and if you think about that, if I sell 10 cash secured puts, then what are the dealers? They're long puts. And if the dealers are long puts, they have downside directional exposure. So how do they hedge that? They would buy DocuSign shares. So it actually helps by selling puts, it actually forces the dealers to buy shares. And so I think that's what's been happening. And I think that's why DocuSign has had such a strong rally, because people are selling cash secured puts and it's forcing the dealers to get long. I think the dealers have a fair amount of exposure at this point. That's why I think you're seeing this slow down a little bit. So, with that being said, I think we're probably going to start to encounter some resistance soon. 280 would be a natural strike. 280, 285. I think as we get closer and closer to 280, 285 and the prior all-time highs, which was here at 290, I think that dealers are going to be buying less and less shares, and I think they're going to have less and less need to buy shares, and therefore you're not going to get as much fuel to the upside. So could we hit 290? Possibly. This week, possibly. I think we've had some pretty strong weeks. Like this week it gained $30 on the week. This week it gained $22 on the week. This week it gained $21 on the week. So it's possible we can get a $22 gain will put us right at 290. I don't sense that happening. Excuse me. I don't sense that happening though. But if we do, I think that the market will hit 290 and then people will take some profit and then DocuSign will pull back. I kind of hope it does because I'd like to get long again or add more. We are long roughly at 270. Even though I took off live trading, I did add one trade. It was part of my portfolio. But we bought earlier in the week. It was before this rip. We bought, we had 18th. That was the end. Yeah, 21st. We bought this pullback. So we bought this pullback. We felt like this, it started to pull back, and then it recovered VWAP. We bought that, and it's roughly 269, 270. So we're up about $7, $8 on that right now. But we also have long options that are expiring in September, so we're going to hold DocuSign through September. And the Bell market's open. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on DocuSign. Let me check in with comments real quick. Justin saying, no exposure on small caps, just looking for some day trades with momentum. Copy that. I mean, we are in summer times right now. So, but I think you're going to start getting some momentum. You're going to see a lot of trade shifts and portfolio shifts this Friday. So keep an eye for that announcement in terms of what stocks get included into the IWM. I think you're going to see some exposure in that. Drew Spinoza says, should I put my entire fortune on GameStop? No, you should never put your entire fortune into one stock. Never. Because if you do and it goes south, then you're out of the game. You never want to. Your first job as a trader, which I did a video on this Monday, is to control risk. That is your first job. That's your first job as a trader. You should not even be considering trades if you can't control risk. If you can control risk, only then do you start trading in the market. If you can't control risk, you don't get involved in the market. And putting your entire portfolio into GameStop would be not controlling risk, in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully I answered your question, Drew. Trade Tactiki Leary. Thanks for your valuable comments, sir. You are welcome. Nico, hi, Chris. What do you say about the whole Wyckoff story according to Bitcoin? I don't know about the Wyckoff story. I don't trade Wyckoff. Not really much to comment on that. Okay. A little bit of rip in IWM. That's good. Let's take a look at HD. This is another one, stock that's been performing really well. We have HD longs. So full disclosure, we have long calls at 300 and 320. They're leap options. So that means they expire at the end of the year. Leap options don't have to expire at any time, but they're long-term options. We bought them in March or April. And so we are bullish on HD long-term. I really like, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 5 out of 6 weeks selling. And if I was to show you part of the reason why, the same price scale. There we go. So you saw lumber futures sell off. Price of HD also sold off as well. Why? Because if the price of lumber is going down, HD or Home Depot is making less money on the wood and products that they're selling. So a little bit of a rebound in lumber this week. Also a little bit of rebound in HD. But I also think HD also just found a major support. When I look at options exposure on HD, got about 120,000 calls and 122,000 puts, relatively balanced. And short-term options right now, we don't have a whole lot until the July expire, which is July 16th. So that'll be about 20% rolling off. The top open interest put up to then, you don't see a whole lot below 290, and you don't want to see a calls above 330. So there wasn't a whole lot of bearish option traders thinking this is going to get below 290. So that means we're getting into a support zone for HD. And it did. So this week, very strong bounce. We've been talking about this on Monday and with our traders. Very strong bounce off that. We feel this is very solid. Now that it's cleared 310, I feel like now pullbacks, to 310, 308, 308 flat. I think those are potentially good locations if you're not already long. We are long. We have the 300 calls. We have the 320 calls. And I think we've also sold some calls against our long calls. But yeah, we're bullish on HD. And I do believe, in my opinion, I think HD is going to close above 320 by the end of the year. That's why we have 320 as our high strike on the calls. So watch for pullbacks. You got this nice 310 strike lining up with the weekly VWAP. Very constructive. Nice, technical alignment there. I think HD probably pulls back somewhere to 310. I think if it gets to 308, I think that's a really good buy at that point. If it happens to correctively pull back into 300, I think 300 is a steal. I think that's an excellent price to be holding HD throughout the rest of the year. On top of it, you're going to get a 2.5% dividend on it. It's like the perfect setup for, in my opinion, a buy right strategy. So you buy the stock, you write or sell the calls against that. That's your second income. And then your third income is the dividend. So you collect long stock appreciation, you collect premium on the calls you sell, and you collect the dividend. 3 incomes on one stock. And, I don't see the work from home thing ending. And I still see a lot of people spending money on their homes. Again, as I said before, pre-COVID, Americans spending 17% of their annual budget just on transportation. Since then, that money has mostly fallen off a cliff. Where are they redirecting that money? Into the home, which is good in my opinion. Less driving, less pollution, less crowded highways. On top of it, you're spending less time commuting. It's better for people as a whole. On top of that, you spend money on transportation. Those are depreciating assets. You spend money in your home. That's an appreciating asset. So to me, even though COVID was a horrible thing that happened, there have been some silver linings out of it. I think this is one of them, and I think HD is going to benefit from that. Byron Rocker has a call out on GTE, so we'll do call outs in just a minute. Let me cover space and DDD, and then we'll do call outs. Also, Byron for call outs, instrument, time frame, 1 cent subscription, bullish or bearish. You've gotten your description, you gotten your symbol, you just got to give me a time frame. Tom says, hi folks, hi to you, Tom. Constantine also has a call out as well. Okay, we'll take a look at that shortly. So we're getting the call out shortly. Let me pick. Which one do I want to cover? Novavax, space. Wow, space is just ripping. I love you. I love you. I love you. Or DDD. Let's go space. Space. All right. Do I have... Okay, so in terms of options, 420,000 calls, roughly 200,000 puts. Not a whole lot of options rolling off. Short term, the next big option expiry is July 16th. Only 15% of the options. There are some calls targeting a 50 strike. So that's a pretty big move. That would be another $10 from here. That'd be a 25% gain from here. 50 strike. So there are calls that are targeting 50. Space did have some positive news catalysts. They had bad earnings. Earnings were okay, but it did rally from it. But the news was, hey, they're going to start their launch test flight and everything like that. And it's gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks since then. This is a very strong week. There was some news, though, if I'm correct. No, maybe not. Okay, it's gained some attention on Wall Street Bets. Yeah, okay. And they got a commercial. Okay. Let's see. Commercial space agreement. Okay. So, with that being said, nothing gangster, but enough. Space is ripping. We are long, full disclosure, we are long space. We have a long at 35, 36. And so we're doing a buy right on this one. Buying the stock, selling the calls. And so I'm really liking the structure on space. I thought there might have been a chance for a pullback yesterday, but it didn't. So 30 has been a very important support. We did buy 30 recently, took profit on that one. And then we rebought around 35, 36. I can't remember where. But you can see we have this nice impulsive run. Corrective structure. And pretty decent balancing zone, but the dips just kept getting bought. Now all of a sudden they're buying higher. So they're buying at a worse price, but they're buying up. That's a good sign. Then we're seeing another buy up and a very strong impulsive rip yesterday. Yesterday's rip, market opened 36 and almost tagged 40. Nice corrective structure, tight corrective structure at the top, which means that small amounts of selling pressure. So you have strong impulsive buying, rip up. You have tight corrective structure. That means very small selling pressure. More probable direction is to the upside. That's what we're seeing on the open right now. So very, very strong right now. I would not want to be selling space. How much room does space have room to go to 50? From an options positioning, it does. It does. It might start to encounter some resistance around 45. Let's take a look at that on the chart. Mark it up here, and then we'll look at the weekly. So weekly time frame. Here's your 45. You do have this one right here, 42, which is this prior spike high here. Yeah. I could see it this week slowing, between 40, 44, and 45. But if you get a week that closes above 45, then 50 is just a close shot. I would think it would hit, in my opinion, I think it would hit 50 before the July OPEX, which is July 17th or 16th. So, yeah, hard not to be bullish on space right now. Really liking the stock. If you're not already long, where would you look to potentially get long? I think you have to wait for a little bit of a pullback. Let's go back to the 4-hour. Yeah, nice. This is a nice clean trend. You can see right here. This is the prior high of this corrective structure. The market breaks out. What does it do? It respects the prior resistance as a floor and then launches. So I think if you're looking to get long on space, then I think your pullback location is very clear. Just around 39. Just around 39. Yeah. You could wait even for a little bit deeper pullback, maybe to the weekly VWAP. Yeah. Okay, so time for open callouts. Byron's first on the list. Byron, do you have a time frame? So need 3 things for callouts: symbol, time frame, 1 cent subscription, bullish or bearish. That's it. While you're coming up with that time frame, Byron, let's go into Constantine Tilray. Which chart do I want to get rid of? Let's go with Novavax. Okay. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. Smack it, spank it, whack it, whatever you want to do with it. We all have our own preferences. And Trigger Capital just subscribed. Welcome aboard, Trigger Capital. All right. Constantine Tilray wanted to buy at 15.16. Looks like price is in a transition structure. My thought is to buy a pullback to 16.90 with tight stop loss. If stopped, re-enter from 15.16. Are we seeing some transition? Some transition right now. It's not gangster. It's not gangster. Like, the bounce off HD is different. Let me show you the bounce off HD on the 4. See, look at that bounce. It's just strong pulsive buying with tight corrective structures. Now we look at Tilray. It's not quite the same bounce. Not the same liftoff. In fact, the HD one was levitating above. Let's go back. It was like just levitating above that. Just straight impulsive buying, gets above weekly VWAP, tight corrective structure. Not seeing that on Tilray. Get a little bit of bounce, has to pull back into VWAP to find support. But this isn't gangster buying. So I'm not totally sold on it yet. You're thinking, what are you thinking? 1690? Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think anywhere between 17 and 1690 is fine. Let's take a look at options. Let's see what's going on with Tilray. And Rohan Saigal also subscribed. Welcome aboard. There's a lot of options rolling off. And Jesper just subscribed. Welcome aboard. Tilray has about 30+% of the options rolling off this Friday. That's a fair amount. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, and the market there's more calls, 560,000 calls at 275,000 puts. Market's long calls on Tilray. The market is long calls. So, you're going to have 30+% of that rolling off this Friday. What does that mean? If people are long calls and they're in profit, they're going to monetize it. If they're not, they're going to ride it through expiry. Maybe they're short calls. Maybe they're long stock short calls. They're also going to let some of those expire. But the bottom line is you got more calls than puts. So you're going to see a lot of volatility going into Thursday and Friday. I'd be cautious. I wouldn't put whatever your normal position sizing is, I wouldn't put normal position sizing. I probably put on half around $16.90, $17 and wait to see how the volatility plays out going into Thursday and Friday because theta decay is going to be massive going into this Friday. So with that being said, caution, smaller position size than usual, in my opinion. You're thinking you want to re-enter around 15, 16. I'd wait. If this, pulls back and sells off, especially if it does it aggressively, I'd wait for it to transition, kind of show you a better level. Yeah. So not quite there yet. BLDR. That's the LiDAR, Velodyne LiDAR. Good structure. I like the transition here. I think there's a potential reversal happening. Yeah. Yeah, I like this curling and rounding up. That's a good sign. Let's take a look. Does VLDR have options? It does. It does. So, not a whole lot of options. 50,000 on the calls, 25,000 puts. Whoa. Whoa. Over 50% are rolling off on July UpX, July 16th. So you got some time, but this should have a lot of volatility going into the July UpX. I think, what are you thinking on this one here? Long from 1069. 1069. Yeah, I think anywhere in this area right here. I think this is a good location to be long. You have a great location to be long. Stop loss just below that. Target the top of this. Target the top of that. And then, take some off the board. If it builds like a higher ledge, so to say, then you can hold it. Otherwise, if you feel like it's not building a higher ledge, then you just dump it, take your profits, and be done. But I like this. It's building. Would I want to be buying at current price? No. I'd wait for a little bit of a pullback. Usually when I see these curling structures, like this, usually you get a pullback. So, yeah. But I like it. Short-term basis, I like it. I love your pre-market streams. So much valuable analytics in one place. You are welcome, Constantine. Alex, is 56 cents a large spread for a $14 stock? Yes, get a new broker. They're ripping you off. 56 cents is too much. That's too much. That's ridiculous. Like 3 to 5 cents on a $14 stock, not 56. They're ripping you off. Are you trading CFDs? Is that why? Like if it's a CFD, yeah, okay, then the brokers are going to do that. But in my opinion, that's still... It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You should not have a spread like that. I would throw tomatoes at your broker. Or baboon shit or something like that. That's freaking ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. Such wide spreads. I have such wide spreads. Get a new broker. Spreads are important. They add to your bottom line. 4% of the stock price. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay, Byron is back. He said daily bullish. Okay, so let me go back to his comments. What do you think of GDE? I haven't traded GT in a while. Grand Tierra Energy. What are you in? Oil, gas production. Okay, I'm constructive on energy right now. I'm very constructive on energy. We only have like one or two energy plays, but we have some in the works. I don't think there's going to be options on this, being how cheap it is, but let's just entertain myself. Okay, yeah, I was right. Let's take a look. Yeah, very similar structure. Very similar structure. I like it. Big impulsive run, exhaustion sell-off, curling, support. The accumulation is building. Yeah, I like it. I'd wait for a little bit of a pullback. Where would I want to pull back to? Yeah, around 75 cents. So 11 cents lower. Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I like it. I think it's a good play. Short-term basis. Maybe ideally you get a pullback to around 75, 76 cents. You could have your stop loss below all this here. It's around 20 cents. Retarget the highs, $1.20. So you have about 45 to the upside and 20 to the downside. You could go for a little bit tighter stop loss, maybe right around here. That'd be a little bit more tight. That'd be an alternate one. That'd be a third one. Those would be your stop losses. But yeah, I like it. That's a good play. Not a bad spot. I don't trade stocks below $3 generally. May consider this one. But I'm constructive on energy as a whole. So yeah, good spot. Good spot. There is option for GTE? Really? Okay, I'll take a look at that. Probably not a whole lot. Because I'm not picking it up on my open interest scanner. So if there's probably not a whole lot. It's probably in low liquidity. Yeah. What I would do is, if there is options with your broker, check the overall volume at the expiries. If you're talking, the max volume for all the options between now and July OpEx is less than 10,000, you're talking low liquidity. You're going to have a hard time getting in, getting out, getting filled. Spreads will be bad. So I wouldn't consider options on this. I would just trade the stock in the underlying. Yeah, that's my thoughts on them. Okay, any last questions before we wrap it up? How's my space doing? I love you. I love you. HD, a little bit of pullback, fine by me. DocuSign, still strong. And DDD, I'm looking to get long on DDD, but need a pullback. Yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. We've done about 30, 45 minutes right now. So thank you to all the new subs. Trigger Capital, welcome to you. Jesper and Rohan Saigal, welcome to all the new subs. Good to have you on board. So that's pretty much it. Just to recap, keep an eye on the IWM rebalancing. That's going to be happening this Friday once the announcement. Some of those stocks could have a lot of movement, particularly if they add some of the meme stops like AMC, GME, those kind of things. Those things could go bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. So keep an eye on that. Qs capped by around 350. Watch your eyes on Bitcoin. Still not in a transition yet. Needs more development. DocuSign has some strength to it. HD as well. I like the GTE play, Space. And who was the other one that was VLDR? I like that on a short-term basis. So with that being said, if you haven't hit the like button already, go ahead and smash that. And if you haven't, subscribe to our channel. So next time we go live, you will get a notification. Sign up for notifications. You'll get a notification. Hey, we're live. Come join us. I'll be doing a live class this Monday on how to improve stop losses. So we'll be getting into that. And I will teach you a technique to look at your stats and how to improve your stop losses. So with that being said, good luck trading. Be smart. Be safe out there. Always control risk. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.